Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's SecuriSync webinar. We see many people coming in. We will start in just 1 minute. Thank you. Hello, this is Carles Carré, Head of Product Marketing for Intermedia SecuriSync, and with me, Bojan Dusevic, Vice President of Product Management, and we'll be walking through the content of this webinar. Very exciting to talk about Intermedia SecuriSync and its security features, meeting cyber criminals head-on. We have very exciting capabilities and benefits to share with you and helping you selling and getting up to speed on SecuriSync. A few housekeeping items. This is a live webinar. It will be recorded. The recording and the presentation will be available in the partner portal, and you will get an email with a summary of the assets and the collateral that we are gonna share. So we love, as you know, questions and feedback. You can use the box located at the top of the screen to send your comments and questions. So let's get started. In today's webinar, we will be discussing how ransomware is affecting businesses. I'm sure you have, customers of yours that they have been affected. We will explain how SecuriSync data protection and security features is addressing this big problem. We will be also discussing how to take advantage of the Intermedia Partner Program. We will cover the SecuriSync promo, special promotion for partners. And last but not least, very important, we'll explain how to build a high margin business with SecuriSync. And we also have a very good slides and information about the competition, about the market that we are sure that you will love it, and that will help you start selling SecuriSync. So let's get started, and I'll pass over Bojan.
Thanks, Carlos. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. I'll just kind of get right to it because we have a rich agenda, as Carlos mentioned. So before we sort of get to the gist of it, I just want to step back for a quick minute and just talk about the context around file management or generally files, right? And then we'll kind of weave in ransomware and other threats that you as advisors to your customers have to be sort of cognizant of. So first and foremost, I think everybody would agree file management as sort of an umbrella of various capabilities around files is a crucial service for many businesses. You could argue all businesses, right? A lot of information, important, sometimes confidential information ends up being stored in files. And so mobility kind of changed the landscape in that we used to be able to just store all of our files on a file server, back it up, put perimeter security around that network, and think everything is dandy, right? But mobility and remote work and traveling employees and significant changes, right, in how people expect to interact with content have changed that landscape, right? Having a file server or a centralized data store running on hardware is no longer acceptable for most businesses, and so this notion of mobility, which I'll use kind of as an umbrella term for remote access, mobile access, anytime, anywhere access, it's increased complexity, right, and security risks. A lot of the laptops that you're managing today aren't even in the office, right? Those are home workers, remote workers, and beyond files, right? It's more difficult to influence and manage their environments. And so if we think about what are all the things that we'd want to do around files, it's usually way more than file sharing. Most of the vendors in this space are kind of really good at file sharing, but if we think about what are all the things that we want to do, you'd often have to deploy multiple solutions to get those sort of capabilities. So we want secure file access from anywhere. We want kind of well-priced, secure storage, right? Redundant storage, remote access, mobile access, file sharing, and then what's often overlooked, right, is this notion of backup and data protection and restore, overall management capabilities, and most of all, security and control. And so when you're moving your customer, right, from an on-premise environment such as a Windows file server to the cloud, you tend not to have control over some of these things. It's the vendor that controls them, because you don't actually manage the hardware, you don't manage the some of the security capabilities around the platform, and so you often have to deploy multiple solutions, right, to sort of plug the gaps that one file sharing vendor might have around security and backup. Another part of the context is given a set of tools that aren't mobile or very user friendly, we see this, well, for years we've seen this trend, right, of end users just kind of bringing their own solutions into the mix. So one end user once told me, if you give me a file server, I'll put all the files on my personal version of Dropbox. And that's kind of the thing that's happened to many businesses, where administrators just simply start losing control over content. And there's been sort of a notion that if we give users a platform that is modern in terms of supporting mobility and it's user friendly, and it's got these kind of integrated security capabilities, that might turn them away from for bringing their own tools, right? Shadow IT, which is every admin's nightmare. And so I guess the reason we're saying this is we think we certainly belong in that conversation as to the best tool to sort of cover this landscape of file management capabilities. Namely because we've specifically focused on being sort of the one file management product that most SMBs will need for their content, and we'll kind of talk about that in more detail in subsequent slides. But before we do that, I want to introduce kind of the topic of the day. What's made file management even more difficult, right, is ransomware and really a staggering number of cyber threats, which are being perpetrated basically hourly, if not every minute, right? It's become a big business where instead of building products and technology, people are focused on stealing from others, right? And ransomware is a great example of that. And so being ransomware ready or having the right tools, right, to both prevent whatever can be prevented and then also remediate the things that you just simply can't prevent, because the perpetrator is so sophisticated that having antivirus isn't going to do the trick, right? So it's this sort of whole body of work that you need to do with every end customer. One is education. You want to make sure they're very cognizant around how what emails look like when they end up in their inbox. Phishing is an art, right? And so end users want to be trained to look for symptoms, right, of a phishing email, because that's usually the way these ransomware strains are contracted. And then separately on the back end, you'd want to make sure the files are stored on a platform that allows instant, if you will, immediate remediation to bring users back to being productive. We have some stats to share, and there are many other stats you can find yourself on the internet, because the number of businesses that have been impacted by ransomware and various other cyber threats is sort of tremendous. And the surprising thing for us as we were researching this is that it's not the enterprises that are targeted. I mean, sure, there are some enterprises that are being affected by ransomware, but I think what the perpetrators have realized is that an enterprise business has this whole sort of team of people that worry about IT, that educate end users around phishing and ransomware, and they're generally sort of a lot more vigilant, right? And SMBs, some of them uneducated, right, will take the bait, will download ransomware, and then it could be detrimental for their business. So being locked out of your files for a week, 2 weeks, or never, or forever, I should say, could be quite significant. So 65% of SMBs admit that they've been victims of cyber attacks. That's a significant number. If it's just one user, if it's a CEO or somebody who has a really influential role in the business, it could mean a lot of dollars lost, right, in non-productivity. So I think I kind of covered this in pretty good detail. What we don't have here, but we actually sourced, I think a year and a half or 2 years ago, it was a partner survey where we asked partners. Many of you might have participated in this survey. We sort of asked them, what's your experience with ransomware? And the amazing thing that we found out is that partners end up being blamed for an outbreak of ransomware, even though technically, right, there's nothing you can do to really prevent it. You could have the tools in place to remediate quickly, and you can do some sort of education and antivirus, anti-malware type protection, but truly something is likely going to get through, right? And so we found that most partners end up being blamed for it. It affected their business relationship, and many of them ended up sort of doing a lot of busy work, a couple of weeks of somebody's time to remediate the files manually, right? Because that's the only thing you can do in some of these cases. So we've been focused over the past couple of years of sort of pivoting away from just being a file sharing platform to really being a file management platform. And in our eyes, this basically means that we cover all of these things that I just talked about, right? File sharing, backup, file security, all in one platform with a set of administrative capabilities that allow you partners to sort of manage this platform end to end in ways that you sort of desire. And so what I'd like to talk about next is just sort of the full set of security capabilities, and I'll do this briefly, and we'll elevate most of them in the demo. There are a couple of really unique things that we do with the product. One is we have built-in backup. So beyond being a file sharing platform, our product also serves as a endpoint backup solution, which can back up important locations on a PC or a Mac in real time, which sort of takes away the need to deploy multiple products, one for file sharing, one for backup. So that's sort of the first important point. If ransomware strikes, we have these really powerful rollback capabilities. I'll show you those in just a second. And they allow you to sort of quickly roll back to a healthy state and get these users back to work, alleviate the crisis, right? And make it a thing that's talked about, right, by the water cooler, and not something that takes the company out of work for a week or multiple weeks. In addition to that, we have about a year ago introduced an integration with Bitdefender. I think everybody knows who Bitdefender is, but in general, it's sort of best in class. I'd say, if not the best, then top 3 security vendor in the world, right? So we have an integration where all the files on our platform are actually being scanned by Bitdefender. You have to enable this for a customer's account, and once you do that, we will do that perimeter protection, if you will. So if there are known ransomware or virus strains that make it into the file platform, we'll catch them, quarantine them, and prevent, for the lack of a better word, any type of disaster from happening, right? So that's our kind of perimeter front-end protection. And then if things do make it through this really unique ransomware remediation story that's part of our backup, it gives you that peace of mind that you're not going to have that type of escalation within this customer. There are lots of other good things, and I'll cover most of them in our demo. But really, our focus has been, as the name of the product implies, to provide security, visibility, control at every sort of level, right? File, user, device, overall platform. And we pass most of those controls to you, so you can sort of fine tune them for individual customers. So I think we covered this pretty good. Here's the rollback. I'll quickly touch on it here, and then I'll show you the full context in the demo. So basically, as we run real-time backup within the file sharing platform, we start to accumulate this really sort of rich history for all the files. So we know every file that's been deleted, we know every version of every file, and when ransomware hits, as many of you know, it'll just sort of scramble the latest version of the file. In fact, what it'll do is it'll create a new version that's scrambled, but the history remains healthy. And we have this rollback capability. It's been in the market for some time now, and sort of rolling out and better, that allows you to simply do 2 things. One is discover when the attack was, or when the strain was downloaded. We help you do that through support. You can do it yourself through our audit logs. You'll see kind of some mass changes to files. And then you have this one-click restore capability. You pick a date and time before the issue happened, and we kind of roll back to pristine state before ransomware took hold, and users are back at being productive, which is, I guess, the most powerful benefit of the feature. So more on that in the demo. So I'll start the demo by just sort of giving you a brief intro to the file sharing capabilities. Then we'll make our way into some of the other things I mentioned around backup, ransomware, and overall control feature set. So I'll share my desktop. Carlos, please confirm that you can see my desktop. I'll assume that if you can, everybody can.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So as mentioned, one of the core capabilities is secure file access and file sharing. And so the product comes with applications for end users, mobile, desktop, and web. And in order to be able to log into those apps, you have to provision users for the service. So I'll just quickly show you the admin control panel where the provisioning happens. Then I'll tie that into the apps, and we'll come back here, talk about it a bit more. So for those of you that, and I imagine that's most of you, that have sold some intermediate services, this probably looks familiar. Mine is the branding. SecuriSync is kind of built into the admin control panel, and it's just another service that the existing Active Directory user can be enabled for. So it makes it really easy to enable SecuriSync for any Unite/Elevate UC customers, for any Exchange customer. You basically tick a box. You go to the SecuriSync management menu and you tick this box, you click save, and Alex North now has access to SecuriSync. And so once that happens, Alex is free to interact with the app. So I'll start us off with the desktop app, which is basically integrated into Windows Explorer and Mac Finder, and just sort of looks like another another folder that a user can interact with locally. So the premise is we don't want the users to learn a new skill. You know how to save your files within Windows Explorer, well, you know how to use our product. And as you might imagine, they can click to open any of their files or create new files, and they'll be any changes they make to them will be dynamically saved in our cloud. So I just clicked on that file. It's opening on my other monitor, so it'll take a second here. As I'm working with it, right, this is a very trivial demo. I can make some changes here, and you'll see as soon as we hit save, which is what most users will want to do, our product has detected a change and has pushed it up. And over the course of use, right, many files will have a very rich history. So we have an Office plugin that does many things. One of them is displays a versioning tree here, so a user can quickly compare different versions. And so that version gets pushed up here, and we start to build this history, which is actually a basis for rolling back in the face of ransomware, right? So I just made that change. Let's remember that, 3 question marks. So if I quickly take you to the web portal, also opening on my other monitor, so I'll move it here, you'll see that that change was kind of instantly captured. So we were here, and I'm pretty sure that was the file we opened. And so you'll see that change kind of reflected immediately. And so over time, right, we're gonna reliably capture all the changes users are making, and regardless of a device or an app that they're on, they'll always be interacting with the latest and greatest version of the content, which will hopefully make them more productive, and knowing that they're always looking at the latest. The mobile apps are a little trickier to demo, but we have rich experiences there. I can quickly show you, the App Store. They basically do a lot of the same things that our web and desktop apps can do. They allow users to access, edit, share, save for offline access, right? They allow them to be quite productive and are really nifty when you're out of the office and somebody asks you for a file and you need to quickly kind of fetch it to them. So they provide that kind of similar feel, but just native to the mobile device. All of these applications are highly secure, and content is encrypted in transit and at rest. And we do something really unique. We encrypt each customer's data using a unique encryption key, which is to the detriment of our storage costs, but to the benefit of the customer, because it's far more secure than some methods employed by our competitors. So where do we go from here, right? We established really, really simple and secure access. Most people are going to want to collaborate. That's sort of essential, right, for a file sharing product. And I'll quickly give you the 2 primary ways of sharing. So one way is to create a web link. And so that can be done from multiple places. And our web links have a set of sort of policies that admins can deploy on top of them. Also, users can have them expire, password protect them. But at the gist of it, right, it's a really simple way of taking a file or a folder and extending it for somebody for reviewing. So the recipient of a web link, as you might imagine, does not need to have a SecuriSync account, and this allows them to quickly get to the content. I'm doing an incognito tab, so my sessions don't mix, but you basically see what a recipient of a web link would do. Yeah, so that's what they would see, and they could preview the file within the interface. Now we've also ported this within Outlook. My Outlook looks scary, so don't ask me to show you the whole thing, but I'll quickly show you the integration here. So it allows users to basically send files of any size, right? Via Outlook, we automatically kind of work around the limit that's typically imposed by the email platform, and users can just send files of any size. My test is small, but it could be a 100 gig file for all that matters. So that's kind of a quick share, right? Just to get the information across. You can copy these into your chat application, UC app, email. The more common and I think impactful form of sharing is these sort of persistent shares, collaborative shares, as I like to call them. And so this is typically done to share a small or a large folder tree with either an individual. So we have our sales specialist here, and I can invite him, and I can also invite our product management team. I'm not going to actually click through this because there's many product managers on this team, but we support sharing with individuals, sharing with groups, right, and also external users. So assuming the policies are set in such a way that allow users to do that. Right, so admins can prevent some users from sharing externally, and I can apply an appropriate permission. They're sort of self-explanatory. View, modify. Co-owner is the only sort of elevated permission that allows the recipients to also reshare the folder. And then they basically, once accepted, these folders appear just like this in the recipient's file spaces. I'll show you my file space, right? So most of these folders are mine. These shared folders were sent to me by my colleagues, and they just look like my folders, and most of them trust me enough to to have access to them with read-write permissions. We also have some capabilities around simultaneous access. So this Office plugin that I showed you actually engages a co-authoring pane when multiple users are in the same file, and manages co-editing. So it basically prevents users from overwriting each other's changes. So it's a pretty powerful thing. It'll prevent those kinds of conflicts for Office files. And we also have an integration with Office Online that allows users to actually co-edit, kind of truly co-edit content if it's open in the web app. Users just need to have an Office Online license, and in theory can co-edit with each person's cursor flickering around and so forth. So there's a lot more depth there, but in the interest of time, there's a robust, right, sharing capability in the product, and I want to kind of pivot to what's really unique. So beyond these sharing capabilities, we have additional backup capabilities that are built into the product. So our desktop app can go out and back up additional user profile folders. And so I, as an end user, can set it. That's like one deployment motion. Most of us don't trust end users, so I'll show you an admin policy that can sort of persistently deploy a policy down here of admin's choice without users' ability to change it. But effectively, it can just kind of wire my entire PC to the cloud, wherever I am, whether it's web or mobile or another PC at home, if you let me do that, I'll have the latest versions of my files. And these are, in fact, all my files off the PC. So if I lose my PC, if it just dies on its own, I get ransomware, I'm able to recover more than just my SecuriSync or my ShareSync content. I'm able to recover the full set of content, if that makes sense. I'll show you the admin policies just near the end. What's I think maybe more interesting here is once I've backed everything up. I mean, it's happening in real time. So over time, I've built up a lot of history there, and something happens. How do I sort of resolve the problem? And I already walked you through the device loss or damage. There are three others I think that worth mentioning. So one is a user accidentally deletes a file. We have a recycle bin, which by default we kind of retain forever. You can change that, whereby you have access to users' file spaces, and you can just restore it, and it'll kind of pop back into their file space. So I did this too fast, so the file disappeared and appeared again because I restored it too quickly. But that's actually what would happen. There's a more extreme case when somebody blows away an entire folder tree, and I know this happens very often, actually, and most of you have probably experienced it. Users just accidentally will trip up and delete a bunch of stuff, and then you don't want to be manually recovering that. So we've got a mass. Oops, this recycle bin filter is on, so I got to take it off. We got a mass restore tool. Oops, sorry, too impatient. Mass restore tool that'll allow us to recover, and so. Imagine somebody blew away like 1 million files, right? So instead of having to figure out what all that was, if you know that they're in a particular folder, you can go there and say, I want to restore everything that was deleted after a certain date. And the way you find this data is you can go through the audit log. I'll show you that in a little bit. When you see the sequence, a large scale deletion sequence in events, you go there and you do that, and instantly all those files are recovered and back in their place. The pinnacle is I think ransomware and other kind of corruption that requires a full pristine rollback. And so what the rollback does is it takes and rolls versions back. Basically, if something was deleted, it restores that. If something was created, it removes that. So it pristinely rolls back the state to the date and time that you pick here, and always want to pick the time before ransomware hit. So given how it works, it restores from all the different types of ransomware. Because some ransomware works one way and some works another. Some create duplicate versions of every file, right? And just make a mess of the file space. And because the rollback literally brings you back to exactly how the file space looked, you're able to bring users back to productivity within minutes as opposed to weeks. Right, so that's a really important aspect of it. So from here, I want to take you back to our administrative control panel and just tie in a few pieces around backup. So you saw the end user experience, but here's the admin experience where I can actually build a policy along with some exclusions if I need to, that says, hey, I want to back all this up and I don't want users to override it. Boom, save it, policy goes down, and every end user is backed up regardless of device. We also have mobile backup. There's some use cases where that's useful, and we can back up back up the media right off of the mobile file system. The other bit I wanted to show you that's closely related to backup and restore is this notion of retention policy. So by default, right, this is the default policy. It says we're going to keep all the file versions, we're going to keep everything in the recycle bin, and we don't let users empty their recycle bin. So we sort of very cautious on that front. You can tweak some of these, right, and retain data for less than that if you choose to, so that your usage is kind of managed over time. But I wouldn't go too aggressive there because this history actually is what allows us to roll back. So I just wanted to tie those two bits together. Now, speaking of security and control, let's start with ransomware related things and make our way around, users, files, storage, and devices. So here's where one would enable antivirus. It's a really great offer that we have. It's free for everybody and for every single customer in our base. The only thing you have to do is enable it. So if you have customers with us already, I encourage you to do that. It doesn't cost anything. It'll never cost anything, and it just provides a nice layer of protection. Beyond that, we have a bunch of other really useful things that maybe not every customer will need, but they're good sort of security fundamentals to employ everywhere if you can. Most recently, we launched the ability to control maximum number of devices per user. Highly recommend using that. The benefit is that in case somebody's credentials are compromised, in case you're worried of somebody going home and syncing most of their content down to their desktop at home and copying it elsewhere, you can actually impose limits. So their corporate PC takes that device license, and then they're blocked from logging in from other devices until you allow them to do so. So if a user tries to log in from a personal device, you'd get a message, and you could sort of talk it out offline, and if it's a reasonable request, you can give them access, but you would prevent it in the first place. So really good security measure. 2FA, strongly recommend enabling that. Sharing policy, a big consideration, right? So we allow external sharing by default, but it's not enabled for end users specifically. So what that means is users can attempt an external share, but it would go to you as a request, and you'd have to approve it. So you could go back here and say, look, I trust Alex and Aaron and a bunch of these guys. I'm going to allow them to share externally. I don't need to approve every share. But some of these other people, I need to know what they're sending outside. So again, depending on the nature of the business you're servicing, you may want to go more strict or more flexible there. The important thing is you have ability to do that in the same product, right? And then lastly, within that security policy, sharing policy, you can also impose some limitations on web links. So we support all kinds of different web links. You could, for example, have an upload-only link, which allows you to request files from others. That's a upcoming use case, if you will. If your customer doesn't use that, you can turn it off so they won't see it in the UI. If they use it, you turn it on, and you apply some security policy to these. Basically, you can say any link can only be used internally, if it's a very stringent environment, or has to be password protected, and they all expire a certain period of time. So you have these controls that you can impose to every customer individually. Last but not least, and this is table stakes. You'll say it's table stakes, but it's actually a really unique capability. It's usually reserved. It usually doesn't exist, or it's reserved for really high-end versions of our competitive products. It's sort of remote admin access into file spaces, right, where you have access to active user accounts as well as external user accounts as well as decommissioned user accounts. You kind of have everything at a glance. And if somebody needs help restoring, this is how you can kind of back into their web app and help them, restore this folder tree that they've blown away by accident or whatever the case may be. So a lot like a file server, we give you that control, except, without the drawbacks of a file server. This one is mobile friendly and, hosted in a cloud or multi-tenant platform, all that fun stuff. Given that it includes access to end user accounts, this feature has to be kind of explicitly assigned to various texts that you enable on the account. So you guys probably set up certain roles for your technical team, your engineers, and various people on the team. You want to make sure that flows to the customer account and assign that role specifically. So not everybody, like Intermedia, for example, can't go in here in customer accounts. I'm logged in as a customer right now, so we sort of play a fine game there with privacy and liability. Lastly, and then we'll, I think. Two more points, then we'll get back to the slide deck. So storage management, this is where you can manage your storage package. We'll talk about various pricing options. Audit log, invaluable resource for compliance, for troubleshooting. It's basically an unlimited trail of all of the events that have happened since day zero. And you can filter by name, by folder, by actor, and then export to CSV if you want to, capture certain activity. But usually is an answer to what happened here to this file or this folder, right? And we can trace it back. And given the other controls, you're never going to lose any content. So it's just a matter of finding the version that the user misplaced, right? And so lastly, I'll leave you with this. We have a really unique story here. So I think most people have acknowledged, right, that file servers as they are just, for most customers, just don't fit the bill, given the mobility and ease of collaboration capabilities that exist elsewhere. So we have an app that can be used in two different motions. One, it can be installed on a Windows file server to help migrate the content to SecuriSync or ShareSync. And alternatively, if you have customers that have a file server that have certain application dependency, or they just bought it, right? So you just sold them a file server, can't replace it the next day. But you have a need, right, to back it up, to mobile enable the content, to remote enable the content. You can run this app on top of a file server, and it'll basically keep the file server content in sync with our platform. And then from there, you can extend it to certain end user accounts. And so, John can get his files on his mobile phone and web and so forth via this sync mechanism. Great. So I think there's lot more to show, but we'll stop there, given that we have limited time for this presentation. So let me get back to our webinar. All right, everybody should see the slides. Carlos,
Yeah,
please confirm.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So before we get into how to sell the product, I just have one last call out. We've had a file syncing application for some years, and this year we started a beta of our Windows streaming app. I think we're rather close to making it generally available. So I think probably everybody understands the difference, but the streaming app will act more like sort of the best of both worlds, a map drive and file sync. So actually what I was demoing to earlier was a file streaming app, because I'm one of the beta testers, and it essentially allows a user to see all of their files without having to download them, and then it downloads on click, like files download on click. So it allows me to expose terabytes of data to a user that's got a very small hard drive, and then when they kind of get into the folder, see this file isn't local, this file is local. Let me make that. So that's a cloud file, right? And I have to kind of click on that to open it, and it downloads the file dynamically. I think we think this is sort of the future, right, of how the product will be used. So we're happy to have you participate in the beta. I'll just quickly flash a screen here. You can take some notes. The easiest one to remember is to email us at SecuriSync@intermedia.net. Note the spelling there. Or you can screen cap this the beta page. You just reach out to your account manager. They'll connect you with us. You get access to these apps, and you can try them yourself, especially if you have an NFR account. That'll just allow you to kind of do it without impacting anything else. It's not yet available for customers, but we hope that'll happen very soon. Okay. I think we talked about this. I want to shift gears and just kind of talk about the overall value proposition and some of the competitive landscape. I think I touched on it, at least related to the product capabilities a little bit, but let's kind of sum that up. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is the partner angle. So I think what makes us really unique is that we are truly partner-first file management. Even though we have a direct brand, we don't push it at all, and it's mostly sold to our existing base. So really our growth comes from our gray label products and the partner program, which is probably part of the reason why most of you are in partnership with us. And so as we did some kind of soul searching and thought about like what really attracts partners to our offer, and I think a big part of it is this ability to fully own the customer and avoid channel conflict, because gray label brand isn't linked to us, and you don't have to compete with the retail price points, right? And you own the billing, you own the top line revenue, which helps your business's valuation in the long run. And we merely serve as a partner behind the scenes, helping you sell, helping you market, helping you onboard the customer. And that, as we kind of scan the market, those also turn out to be sort of compelling advantages. Account management, we have a sales specialist who most of you will be introduced to, who's really knowledgeable about the product and can help you sell it directly to customers, sort of save your bandwidth, right, and just help your bottom line. And then, of course, the 24/7 support. So if you're doing deployments on the weekend, we're one of the, I think, rare vendors in this space that you can call and get some help, right? So just that's often overlooked, but it's not something that everybody kind of packages in their offer. So we felt compelled to bring that up, and that's a big part of our philosophy, right? Being really easy to do business with and earning a business every month, right? And so what happens in general in the open market is you have mostly direct focused products, right? That end up kind of competing with the partners and capping the price points, right? So your margins are capped at whatever the discount you're getting from the vendor. Most of is do-it-yourself marketing, selling, and support in some cases. And going back to the product, you're effectively selling file sharing, and what we're offering here, what we're proposing is a product that does it all, right, for a small SMB. So you'll get the slide deck at the end of our demo, so we won't spend too much time here, but generally how we like to think about this is there's a lot of vendors in this space that are very good at file sharing. I mean, incredible, right? There's some market leading companies like Dropbox and Box, and so they're fantastic at that. However, that when you think about all the things you need for file management, there's a lot more to it, and there's backup, and there's ransomware remediation, and all these control features that we just talked about. They're available in some of the packages sold by the market leaders, but they're very expensive. And what we're basically giving to you to resell is a simple package that includes all of it, right? And you just size it based on the storage needs. And given the market value, of Dropbox for Business Advanced, like $20 per user, that gives you a lot of room to maneuver. I mean, obviously, you're likely not going to charge $20, but you can try charging that range and recoup a ton of margin. We'll talk about different kind of margin scenarios, but that's really the core sort of value prop here. Just for the record, we listed our retail prices, which you're not bound to, given that private label reseller is really like our private label reseller plan is just not connected to intermediate at all. So you're free to price it whatever you want. So I wanted to quickly just kind of play through a few scenarios. So if you just sell it straight up, so if you sell the various packages, the 10 gigs, the 100 gigs, and the unlimited, all of them, by the way, are pooled at the account level. If you sell them at our kind of retail price, then these are your margins, right? So if you sell unlimited, you've got a really kind of rich margin there. And you're also giving this sort of rich offer, right? It includes backup and data security. You have to combine a few solutions, right, to get that with some of the pure play file sharing options. So that's a consideration. There's some alternative approaches. So that's one, sell it straight up at our retail price. Some really shrewd partners basically said, hey, look, I can sell unlimited to all my customers, but I can provision whatever they need on your platform. So that takes advantage, right, of the reseller model. And if you have a customer with a lot of users and relatively low storage needs, maybe you get away with the provisioning 10 gigs per user to start. You sell them unlimited at the unlimited price point, but you provision 10 gigs, leaving you a ton of margin, right? Then when they need more, you can bump it up to 100 gigs. You still have a ton of margin. So you end up here eventually, but that's probably years of consumption. So that's how they're sort of managing, right, the cost and the revenue sides of the business and earning a really healthy margin on the product. And another approach is just saying, look, that's the market value to get backup and file sharing and all these security capabilities. It's $20, right? And you sell unlimited, you provision unlimited, and make a bunch of margin there. And there's many in between. These are just some examples that our most successful partners have shared with us. So we wanted to share those with you. Really quickly here, for those of you that haven't sold a lot of this product in particular, this math may be obvious, so we won't spend too much time here, but we sort of played this game and wanted to figure out, like, what does it take to get 100K in annual revenue for SecuriSync? And this can be applied to actually a lot of other products that are cloud-based and monthly recurring. But in our case, right, the math is pretty simple. If you sell 50 new seats every month, so for some of you, that's like one customer. For others, maybe two. For some, maybe like a quarter of one customer, right? So if you do that every month, right, and you just don't churn anybody in a year, you do it for 12 months, you end up with more than 100K in revenue. So that's a really easy way to do it. And you do that by selling at $15 per user. So you can plug in your own numbers, and it's a really easy way to bump up your revenue around file sharing. So where do you go from here, right? Some of you, we know some of you are on our NFR program, and if that's the case, if you've been using it, great. If you haven't, we can help you kind of revitalize it. We have an awesome offer where, as a partner, you're just qualified to get free SecuriSync for your own internal use, and each user in your business gets 200 gigs pooled. So if you have, I don't know, 5 employees, you get a terabyte of storage. If you have 10, you get 2 terabytes. It's just kind of simple to get it going, and you can start using it internally, so you can realize some of these benefits yourself. Anthony and we have dozens of salespeople, but Anthony kind of spearheading the specialist effort. Your own account manager helping out, our SC team there for support. We'll take you through a series of sales and technical training sessions to get you ready to sell and support the product. And we've got an awesome promo that you can take advantage of through the end of the year. It's basically 3 months free on any SecuriSync deal. And that's a promo to you, so you can decide to pass it on to the customer, or pass some of it to the customer, or none at all. Just keep all the margin to yourself. But that's effective through end of year, right? Great. So I think we've got just a few more slides, and then we'll take the questions, I promise. I just wanted to call out some of the good work that Carlos and our marketing team has been doing. If you look at the sales portal, you'll find a lot of rich content there. It'll be wrapped into a campaign in a box that you can use for your own marketing needs, but a lot of the content is already available, so you can leverage it for conversations and just sort of informational content for your customers or prospects, right? So it's all available in the partner portal, and there's even email templates that you can leverage to help you sell the product better. Before we get to questions, just 2 more things we want to call out. For those of you that are engaged with us on our unified communications solution, Intermedia Unite, or are considering doing that, SecuriSync is a significant part of that. In fact, it's one of the really differentiating components in our offer. We have a really strong phone system, team chatting, collaboration, video conferencing, and call center capabilities, and file collaboration is in the mix of that. So you can sell that as a bundle and as a package to a customer, and SecuriSync is a kind of integral part of that. And with these 2 solutions, we allow you to service total addressable market of basically $96 billion in North America. So it's quite significant. There's lots of customers there that whose solution can be modernized, both for file management and for UC. And so we're here to help you do that. So with that said, I think we should shift gears and take questions. So I've got a few questions right off the top here that I'll answer. So first question, is this a separate product than ShareSync? So no, it is not. ShareSync is the gray label brand that I was referring to. So we just have a rule in our 2 partner conversations. We talk about SecuriSync, but you end up selling a debranded product to your customers that gives you that air cover, allows you to package it and price it creatively, right, without having us as a reference point. So another question, when sharing a link via Outlook, can we set a link expiration date? Good question. So if you do that using the plugin, we do not have the integrated link expiration there. We have it when you create links anywhere else, and you can password protect the link in Outlook. You just can't expire them yet, and acknowledge that would be a really nice thing to have. So that'll make it onto our roadmap. Another question from a partner who's sold some, is there a plan to allow cross-account collaboration across any server instead of only same server as it is now? So the short answer is yes. And we're already starting to do that through account migrations. You can reach out to us at SecuriSync@intermedia.net, and we can have sort of a more in-depth kind of offline conversation there. But there's already a path to doing that.
Boyan, we have some questions about the making available the presentation, the recording. The answer is yes, you will get that in the thank you email. You will get that probably later today or maybe early in the morning tomorrow. It's a thank you email with the deck, recording, and then we got partnered with some issues with the collateral. So just let you know, working on that, there is an issue in the partner portal. We hope we can fix that very soon. And in any case, in the thank you email, we will include the collateral. Okay.
Awesome. Lastly here, there's a question around the Mac streaming app. So Mac streaming app is in development, and our hope is that we can get it out early next year. So we'll need to get it to a beta just to kind of vet the quality, but that's our plan. So it's going to follow the Windows streaming app closely. Just in the we have two quick bits of feedback that we can address quickly. So the feedback from a partner asking if we plan on addressing I guess in the UI differentiating users' own folders and shared folders. We try to do that using some overlay icons, I think. So we'll connect, I guess, offline on this if that's not good enough. We didn't have any imminent plans other than some filters that would like just allow you to highlight shared folders. As most of you who have used the product, we have sort of overlay icons that some appear to be shared. They have, I guess, two silhouettes of people on top of them. That implies that a folder is shared, and when it's not there, it implies that it's not. That's the most basic way to tell them apart. That's been kind of our go-to. So it's the first time kind of hearing that that's confusing people, but we're happy to discuss it in more detail and adjust it if needed. Great. I think this is the list, and we're at the end of our slot here. If I missed any questions by hastily moving through the UI, we'll follow up offline. It's a great opportunity for you to meet Anthony and develop a partnership there. He'll follow up and get you all the outstanding answers that we haven't been able to get to here. From our team at Intermedia, we thank you very much for the time, and look forward to working with you on some SecuriSync opportunities.
Yeah, thank you so much as well. We appreciate the time and the feedback and the questions. Have a very nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.